Right, so I'm going to hand over to your legendary moderator now. This is Ace from One Extra. Everyone show some appreciation for Ace, please.
Hey, this is awesome, man. Big up to AccessAllAreas. Thank you for having me. And this is awesome that we get to celebrate 50 years of hip-hop. I know it's cold and it's a Saturday, but it's awesome that everybody came together. And we're going to have an awesome chat today. We've got some real big names on this panel that have got a really, really good insight into the world of hip-hop. And it's just amazing that we got to celebrate 50 years of hip-hop. I'm not sure if everybody thought that 50 years down the line we'd still be celebrating hip-hop, but it's bigger and badder than ever. And there's a lot to talk about. So firstly, let me introduce our panel. To my left, we have entrepreneur and general manager at MMF. We have Analise Harmon. Please make some noise for her. From the wonderful world of fashion, we have a fashion stylist and music exec. We have Nisha Sharma. Make some noise for her, please. We have founder of Million Entertainment. We got Shane Rosario. I was going to be a name wrong. Yeah. There you go. Make some noise for Shane. I just know him as Shane. Big money Shane. We have got legendary photographer. I don't even want to just call him a photographer because I don't know he does loads, man. Please make some noise for the legend that is TMax in the building. We have another legend here. We have Carl KG Gordon, who is the producer, songwriter, and a senior lecturer for rap and MC course at ACM. Make some noise for KG. We've got co-head of production at No Signal Radio and A&R and at Graduation Records. Big deal in the game right now. Make some noise for Scully. And we have broadcaster, journalist, and DJ, somebody I've worked with many years ago. Very happy to have her in the building. Please make some noise for DJ Sarah Love. Awesome. Right, now we're going to find out what hip-hop means to each and everyone on this panel, but before we do that, we have something very special that we're going to do. Analise, you've been working on a documentary that is currently on Paramount Plus.
I am I'm a producer. I'm one of the producers. I'm the only female producer on it as well.
Amazing.
It's a movie that we started working on in 2019. It took that long to do it because we were working with artists. Do you have volume yet? It's called Mixtape. It's the history of hip hop. It's talking about how the mixtape started. This was a project that do you want me to move? Okay. Oh, it's behind you. It's behind you. So this was a project that I did with a friend of mine, Nick Quested, who was a British guy in the 90s who came over to New York to go to NYU. He was roommates with somebody called Stretch Armstrong, and he became a music video director, did all the Nas videos, did all the Trina videos, did the Wu-Tang videos, did the Eve videos. Basically, he was the biggest video director in the world versus Hype Williams. It was Hype Williams or Nick Quested. You can Google him if you want to find more, but like everything in the 90s was done by him. Turns out later that we didn't know this at the time because first of all, he was a white English guy, and second of all, he worked harder than anybody. We didn't know that he was the son of a billionaire who owned Goldcrest Films, who did Chariots of Fire, who did Gandhi, who did The Iron Lady, one of the biggest London-based, English-based companies in the world. Anyway, when he grows up, he inherits this company. In addition to doing the Post, he decides to open up a documentary division, and he does the first documentary on his best friend, Stretch Armstrong. It's called Stretch and Babito. They do that. This whole thing is opening. I have an accident. My father died the day after my father died. I had an accident. I lost the sight in my eye. I was grounded. I was stuck in the US for 2 months. First person I call is my ride or die, Nick Quested, saying, can I not only come and stay with you, but can I move all of my possessions from my dad's house into one of your mansions on your property? He said, sure. So I drive down, stay there at the dinner table. I say, what are you doing? He said, I'm doing all of these documentaries. He goes, oh, we're doing one that you might be interested in. We're going to be shooting in London. It's called Mixtape. Do you want to be the producer? I said, I've never been a producer, and I'm mourning right now the grief of my dad, and I'm blind in one eye, and I'm stuck in the US for 2 months. How can I be a producer for the... And he said, well, you were a music manager for 12 years, and you worked with the Wu-Tang Clan. You can produce this film. So we made a deal, And I did the whole production for the shoot on the phone from Los Angeles, well, from New York to Los Angeles, because a band I worked with, Minus Gravity, who are so ride or die, came up and got me, drove me down to Atlanta, recorded an album with me, and drove me across country to LA because I couldn't fly with the eye surgery. So I did all of this as well as doing all of that and produced this film on the phone across America. And first thing I did was to say, I need to get everybody in one place, so I called Tape London, which is a company that I helped put together with Dallas Austin and Zeus Sherlock, and I was the one who put together the business plan and raised the $6 million to open Tape London, a club that I can't get into right now, by the way. So, and I don't have the money to afford a table either, so I'll tell that story later. So anyway, so I did this on the phones, but I called Tape at the time, and I said, look, we're gonna be shooting, we're gonna be having some art. We have Mark Ronson, we have a whole bunch of artists, Ashley Walters, we had Semtex, we had all these people coming in, they all came in. I said, we'll give you a credit in the film. We have 50 Cent in the film, we have Fat Joe in the film, we have A$AP Rocky in the film, we have Mike Tyson in the film, Lil Wayne, there you go, Jadakiss, KRS-One, DJ Khaled, 2 Chainz, DJ Clue, Nore, A$AP, Little Yaki, see, everybody's in this film. So of course Tape were like, yeah, we'll give you a thank you, let's do it. So I had everybody come to Tape. The only person that didn't come to Tape was Shorty Blitz, because he was doing a festival, and we went out to film. They went out to film him there. So Nick and the other producer, David Kennedy, flew over. I was on the phone. I had a really good friend of mine help me coordinate the groundwork, and we just had everybody come to us, and that's how we shot this film. We also chose 3 unknown rappers who were going to have like a scene in this film, along with the pioneers, and showing how hip-hop that started in New York is now influencing the next generation. So we chose 3. They were unknown at the time, but by the time the film came out, they were very well known. It was like, what is his name? I have the clip, I'm gonna show it, and you can see. We had 3 who, Chi Lingo was one of them, I'll show you in the clip. But they got to come in and do a cypher to a Tony Touch beat. Tony Touch is also one of the producers. He's signed to Def Jam. He's one of the original DJs. He has huge hits. And we released the soundtrack on Def Jam because Tony was signed there. And we basically used like old school beats with new school Def Jam rap artists. So we have all the new school of Def Jam on this soundtrack as well. So the film's out now on Paramount Plus, streaming globally. The soundtrack is now on Def Jam. You can get it on all platforms. They're both really good. I'd be saying this even if it wasn't my film. It's being hailed as the greatest hip-hop documentary ever made. Oh. And it's also, somebody even went as far to say that it's actually, they were like, no, it's the greatest music documentary ever made, because even if you don't like hip-hop, you will like this film. This is what somebody said. And that actually meant more to me, because I'm talking about preaching to the unconverted. You know, I've already got the converted. I know the hip-hop heads are gonna watch this film, but we want everybody to watch this film. So that was the one that I was the most proud of, the fact that people who didn't like hip-hop liked this film, because it was such a good story. Yeah, do you have the clip? Okay, we don't have the clip. You can find the clip online. Just Google Mixtape the movie.
We will do that.
And watch it. It's £7. You can get Paramount Plus. You can cancel it immediately after you get it. Not only is our documentary out, Black Sheep's documentary, The Choice Is Yours by Drez, is coming out on the 21st. And they also have the MTV Awards, who did a Hip Hop 50 special with everybody on it. So you can watch all 3 of that hip hop for free.
Wow. There you go. Go check that out. Now,
sorry, Paramount Plus, but hey.
Now, we got some really good questions, and we're going to evoke some amazing conversations around hip-hop and its 50 years, but I think it's really important that everybody in the room knows exactly about this panel and their contributions to the scene and what's got them to this point, and if how they discovered and fell in love with hip-hop. So if we could just quickly keep that brief as well, Shane, if you don't mind, just letting the people know. Oh, we can go this way if you want. Oh, there you go. We'll go with Shane. We go with Shane first.
Mic check, 1 2 1.
Yeah, just this is an opportunity to flex as well, because I know you're a big deal. So just pull it out there, like.
So just introduce myself.
Yeah, there you go.
Cool. Afternoon, everyone. Everyone good? Yeah. Thank you lot for coming, appreciate it, and thank you for the organisers for putting this on. So I'm Shane De Rosario. I'm a CEO and founder of a management company and independent label, Ms. Million Entertainment. I've been in the game since 2010, so what's that now? 13 years, going on 14 years. I've managed rappers, singers, all creatives I've managed, you know what I mean? From producers, mix engineers, photographers, DJs. Some of my successes led me on to starting my own label at Sony, which I was an MD at a Sony label for 3 years. I then obviously had my daughter and took a little break, so now I'm revitalizing myself and coming through again. So I've worked across the board with, you name the artists, from Stormzy's to Central C's when they were growing up, AJ Tracy's, Mo Stacks, everyone that you can kind of name, I've worked with them in terms of rap-wise. Singers, I've worked with Jazz Caris, Pip Millet, I've worked with a few, I've worked with producers, so yeah, that's the kind of been my journey. And I fell in love with hip-hop from a young age. I'm Caribbean background. Obviously, I listen to, like, you'd call it dance or whatever, bashment, there's all different names, right? And then it's like, a lot of the rappers used to go over to Jamaica and stuff, and I used to watch like DVDs and YouTubes and stuff, and I used to I would say Pac, Biggie, those were like the first. Like Pac was more like lyrical and Biggie was more like flows, and I started getting into that, and then you start having Nas's and the Jay-Z's and stuff, and like for me it was like the storytelling, like the way that they painted pictures with their words, that's what resonated with me, do you know what I mean? Growing up, going to school, I would like imitate them and stuff, do you know what I mean? And like all our friends would pretend to be this person and that person, and that's kind of how I fell in love with it. And then as I got older, like I got into the game, and then yeah, my story just goes on from there.
Amazing. Cool. KG, talk to us, bro. There you go. Make some noise for us, Shane.
Yeah, so my name is Carl Gordon. How did I start? So I was in a group called the Outlaw Posse. One of the pioneering UK hip-hop acts from back in the day. We kind of started when we were about 16, and we made our first album that came out on G Street Records in about 1990. At that time, the UK hip-hop scene was in its fledgling kind of stages, and we were kind of emulating the Americans at the time. Our favorite groups were like Tribe Called Quest, Gangstar, EPMD, Ultramagnetic MCs. These were the kind of guys we looked up to. And, you know, it was an American culture, and we embraced the culture. You know, we didn't embrace just the music, it was the lifestyle. It was the graffiti, and it was the breakdancing, it was the MCing and the DJing, which is the 4 pillars of the hip-hop culture. And, you know, we were about that life. That's all we did. We ate, slept, drank hip-hop all day, every day. Then I got into, I mean, I was starting to produce then. I didn't even realize I was a producer. I was just making beats and doing my thing. And then my name started to get around. I started doing remixes for different types of acts. And then, yeah, my production took off. You know, I've ended up selling probably 10, 15, 20 million records.
Whoa.
I got 16 platinum and gold records. And this is all born from hip hop, man. You know, I'm thankful to the culture for giving me the skills and the dedication and the passion to become good at what I do. And I've had the, the pleasure of branching out into the world of pop, the world of jazz, the world of rock. But my home is hip hop. I've been doing it for 35 years, which makes me seem fucking old. And now I'm, to add to that, I'm also now a senior lecturer at an academy called the Academy of Contemporary Music, where I've written the first kind of hip-hop rap course of its kind in Europe, which is taught in Birmingham, London, Guildford. So that's where I'm at, and that's kind of a little peep into my life.
Amazing. DJ Sarah Love.
Hey, I'm Sarah Love. I'm mostly known as a hip-hop DJ. I think one of my earliest memories in life is hip-hop, and that probably I was about 5 years old in my sister's bedroom, and we were rapping along to Slick Rick and Dougie Fresh, the show. So I didn't really have that epiphany moment of when I discovered hip-hop music. But yeah, I'm mostly known as a hip-hop DJ, but I've worked as a journalist and a broadcaster. I'm the first woman in this country to have a nationwide broadcast hip-hop show.
Hey.
I'm MOBO Award nominated DJ. I'm the only female DJ to ever be nominated Best DJ at the MOBO Awards. I've DJed in 5 continents across the world in over 30 countries. I've worked, with so many incredible hip-hop artists, legendary artists, like interviewing them, touring with them and supporting them. So, I mean, I love hip-hop music, and I just feel very blessed that I've been able to do something that I love and bring joy to other people's lives through my work as well. I've definitely supported the UK. That's been something very passionate to me, supporting UK artists and hip-hop. Its core every time is something that I absolutely love, and I feel very privileged to have been able to do some of that. So that's a little taste of things.
There you go. TMax.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is TMax. The images that you see around the room are taken from the 90s. Predominantly, that's what people know me for, photography, but I've been a broadcaster. Me and my very good friend Fusion used to have a program at MTV Base called the Hip Hop Review.
Legendary.
First hip hop show in the UK.
I know.
Ace on the ad-lib.
I
love it. I love it.
Kind of set a few kind of people on their paths to kind of doing TV and showing it could be done and not do it in a corny way. Did management, had a multimedia consultancy for a while, worked for the BBC, did consultancy for the BBC, Channel 4, E4, artists. I mean, essentially, hip-hop has given me everything. I cannot state how influential and how much of a positive path that the culture has put me on. So, yeah.
Here you go. Scully.
Good afternoon, I'm Scully, and when I was 10 years old, I remember my parents played a really cool trick on me. It was my birthday, and they were like, we haven't, I grew up in South London, and they were like, we haven't got your birthday present this year. Like, money's tight, like, you haven't got a present, like, da-da-da. And I was mad sad. I was like, but that's just what it is. And then I was on the phone to my grandma, like, And they were like, she was like, what did your parents get you? I was like, nothing, grandma, like, da-da. And she, like, I was like, bare sad. And obviously my mom was like, no, I was joking. It was a joke. We've obviously got your birthday present. And they took it out, and it was like this big JVC, like, boombox type thing that, like, could play tapes, CDs, or you could play everything. Because my dad had all of these sound system things in the house that he wouldn't let me touch. Can't touch the settings, can't put my CDs in, can't change the radio, nothing. Like, so now he was like, all right, cool, here's your thing. Like, go and do whatever you want with this type thing. And I used to sit every night and, like, doing my homework. I didn't do my homework, so don't lie. Whatever I was doing, I would listen to the radio, innit? And, like, at the time, I didn't know that hip-hop and radio would become such a big part of my life. And now, like, 2 decades later, it essentially is part of everything I do. So I do TV production. I was the producer on the returning series of UMTV Raps. So when they came to UK, they needed a producer. And I'd never produced TV before, but they were like, yo, you could probably do this. God knows why they let me do it, but they let me do it. It was sick. I've worked at the BBC. I started a radio station with my friends called No Signal Radio. I present a lot of stuff on YouTube, I guess, about rap, and it's all because I love music, and hip-hop has allowed me to do that. So,
awesome. Scully. Nisha.
I'm a fashion stylist and a creative director, but prior to that, I did work in music for 10 years, and my first job was specialising in promoting hip-hop and reggae. So I used to work with well, interestingly, Analise, but no, I don't. Used to do stuff for G Street V2, which is Gravediggers, Jungle Brothers, RZA. But we also used to do a lot of like,
You were signed, so
We were all connected.
Yeah, so I was there when you were there.
Hey.
So, hey.
Yeah.
So link up.
Go and see now. See what happens. Listen to too much hip-hop.
And then from there, I mean, yeah, basically a lot of hip-hop projects. I used to run a national street team. Did loads of stuff for like Loud Street Team. Used to promote all the concerts in London for the Mean Fiddler. It was just me and my two friends stickering and flying the hell out of London. And we'd be like, you know, we had big companies at our competition, but yeah, we killed it. I would just say hip-hop, I think there's no definitive moment, but I do remember being like 12, 13, and you were sort of seeing, I know it's going to be a bit corny, but like LL Cool J was on, you know, Top of the Pops, I'm Bad, Run DMC. It was just the glamour, the fashion, it just, in that moment, caught me. And I was always into sort of clothes and style, and just everything about it. The music, dancing, the art, the graffiti, and I really embraced every aspect of it. I used to like practice dance moves all day, bunk school, get your dance routine together so when you could go clubbing, because back in the day you had to dance. If you couldn't dance, you weren't cool. And so the style, like what you're gonna wear, the outfits, the customize, just every aspect of it. And I just think from the age of maybe 12, 13, and then it's just really impacted everything I do. Like every aspect of what I do, there's a hip-hop influence for sure.
Of course. There you go, make some noise. Analise.
Well, first of all, I'm just really honored to be on with all these people that I worked with back in the day, which shows the impact of that record label, which was started by a British person, by the way, John Baker. So started in London, moved to New York, ended up signing like, you know, PM Dawn, Set Adrift was on there. You may not like them, but it was a multi-million seller record. Gravediggers, RZA, Jungle Brothers, Tragedy Gaddafi, Kamani Marley. We went down to Miami to sign him and went to the Marley party. It was great. Anyway, but great label, and it's so cool that you guys are all in here. I'm Analise Harmon. Hip-hop. When you say how has hip-hop influenced my life, I'm a New York woman that was born in hip-hop and was a very big part of the golden era. So hip-hop was my life, you know, and I'm proud to say that I'm a part of the culture that we are celebrating when we celebrate Hip-Hop 50. I'm proud that that my first party when I was young with my girlfriends, we just had a club night. We said, oh, we were going to Patrick Moxey's Payday, and we were the hot girls that all the guys were coming to see. So we said, well, why don't we just do our own night and have the hot, you know, get the same DJ, do our own night, and put together a hip-hop night. And we did, and we called it, Patrick called his Payday and Milky Way. We called ours Score Bar, a play on words. It was SKOR. And score, you know, you might score with us because we're 4 hot girls. And there was only one other female promoter, that was Jessica Rosenblum, and her partner was Puff Daddy, P. Diddy. So we were kind of getting a scene. We had a place on 4th and Broadway, ironically, which is where G Street was. And we had a hip-hop night, and one day Russell Simmons came, Talking Heads came, everybody came. It was the hottest night. We only had it like a monthly. One night Russell was there, and he said, oh, we're going to be doing the new Public Enemy, Fear of a Black Planet record release party. And I'm like, where are you doing it? He said, oh, I think I'll give it to Puffy and Jessica. I'm like, not another Puffy and Jessica party. You need to have it here. We're the coolest ones. He was knocking back shots, and he said, oh, okay. And I stuck out my hand, shook it, and said, word is bond. And in the hip-hop community, word is bond means, like, even if you made a mistake, you take that body for that mistake. You never break your word. And he was just like, oh, shit, right? So we got the Fear of a Black Planet party that night, me and my 4 girlfriends, and we did the party. Huge success. That record ended up being their most popular record. We got the check from Def Jam, and that was the first time that I saw all of those zeros. And I said, that was when I decided I was going to work in the music industry. So for 4 of us to get like all of those, that was my first multi-$1,000 deal with a major record label, and we were super young, and went from there. And I'll fast forward. There's just too much to say, but I wouldn't be in the UK if it wasn't for hip hop. Massive Attack were filming Unfinished Sympathy in Los Angeles. They were staying at the Chateau Marmont. My best friend James Gibbia, who created Supreme and is now a billionaire, was staying there as well. He met them and said, oh, have dinner when you come to New York, and called me and said, I'm going out to dinner with these 3 British guys. Do you want to come? I went, saw Mushroom, the hip-hop head. We looked exactly the same. We both looked Dominican, even though we're not. He is, I'm not. Fell in love with him immediately, decided to give up my fabulous life, my Def Jam life and everything, and I moved to freaking Bristol from New York City. And then
Culture shock, boy.
and I ended up spending 10 years with Massive Attack. So so I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for hip hop. And not only was it hip hop, it's British hip hop.
Love that.
So,
Love
yeah.
that. All right. So let's get into the convo. I want to start with Carl, if you don't mind, if that's okay, man. You said that you was part of the Outlaw Posse. Salute to you for that. You was an artist. You was influenced by a lot of what was going on in the States. Back then, the scene would have been tiny, I can imagine, as a UK hip-hop artist. Did you ever envisage what was going on today? Our artists are topping the charts. They're headlining Glastonbury. They're on Netflix. They're doing so many amazing things where it's bigger than it's ever been. In the 90s, when you were putting rhymes together, did you see the UK hip-hop scene being this big?
No. Well, do you know what? I mean, at the time, we were just young kids living the dream. We were just making music, man. We were just loved the culture, loved the music, loved performing. And, you know, we were at the start of something new. And we looked to the Americans for inspiration because there was no scene here at the time. There was there was a few cats doing their thing. I think the first time I heard a rapper rapping an English accent, I was like, what the fuck is that? It sounded really weird. And that was the London Posse in 1986. And everyone was rapping in an American accent at the time because we were obviously, I don't want to say copying, but we were emulating the style of hip hop that we heard. So from that, were born people like the Demon Boys and, the culture, the unique British culture it was in this embryonic form. Do you know what I mean? And I think someone asked me earlier why there's kind of a disconnect between the young generation of rappers now and the early days of UK rap. And I think it's because it wasn't ours. Right. You know what I mean? And when rap became ours was probably starting with jungle. You know what I mean? A lot of the artists, MCs jumped onto jungle, and then UK garage came in, and then that morphed into grime and then drill and all this kind of stuff. And now we can say that we definitely have a UK rap culture, which is ours. Do you know what I mean? And
you forgot trip hop.
Trip hop, yeah, that was.
Yeah, all that shit played its role. Do you know what I mean? But I'm kind of going off topic here. But yeah, I think finally, we can embrace the UK rap style and the culture. And you couldn't envisage how big it would get at the time. You just knew you was part of something exciting. Do you know what I mean? It was a feeling. It was like a belonging. I mean, it was crazy.
T, as somebody that was in, I would say, hip hop media back then, and you said you had the MTV Bass show that was popping off, and UK hip hop was in its infancy stages. Like, how difficult was it even to get a show on MTV Bass? It's I love seeing you sitting next to Scully, who's working on Yo MTV Raps today, and I can imagine what it was like for you to even get a hip hop show on MTV Bass. What was that like when you were trying to even explain to MTV Bass that we needed a UK hip hop show? Was it difficult?
We didn't do that.
Oh, you didn't? How did it happen? Did it come to you?
So, and I don't want to monologue because I hate monologuing. Briefly, me and Fusion it was the summer of 99. MTV Bass MTV Digital had just said that they were going to be doing a range of digital channels. Bass was going to be one of them. Fusion had the idea of interviewing the people at Bass so that we could get a gauge of what they were going to be doing and people could read what they wanted to do. So in that, we then got interviewed with a bunch of other journalists because they needed free content. And the easiest way to get free content is to tell people they're going to be on TV. So they interviewed a whole bunch of journalists. They liked what we did. They then flew us to the MTV Music Awards that November. And then they pitched us on doing the show.
Amazing.
And we didn't take them seriously because who the hell was going to give me and Fusion, these two guys, a photographer and a journalist, a show on MTV Base? So we did the pilot, and we killed it, and then they gave us a show, and then we had to just figure it out. Right. So, I mean, in essence, it was everything was very new, and we were. I mean, Fusion is one of the best journalists, hip-hop journalists in this country. And at the time, he was breaking a lot of new ground, and it was great working alongside him because it meant that I had to be really on point as well when it came to producing my work, photography, and doing some journalism as well. And for us, it was more about, because we only had 2 stipulations when we got the show. One was that we could keep doing our consultancy work, because we were doing consultancy work for a bunch of people. The second was that we could have UK people on the show. Excellent. So the first bit was a bit of an issue because, again, it's MTV. The second bit, they were like, well, yeah, okay, fine, whatever. Because they didn't know there were any UK artists. So we literally got to have Ty Shorty Blitz. We got to have, who did we have on there? We had a whole bunch of people, Black Twang. And the point was is that we could show people up and down the country that there were artists, viable artists, that were putting out music that they should be listening to, that had videos, and we got to give them a platform. For us, that was the only reason to do the show. There was no other reason, because we weren't interested in being on TV. Fusion almost quit like 2 shows in, because he just wasn't comfortable. So for us, it wasn't about the look. It was literally about we can give people a platform.
What do you think that platform did for a lot of those early UK artists? Did it help them? Did they see album sales? Like what did being on MTV Base mean to some of those artists in the late 90s, early 90s?
I think it was just about having the attitude and the persistence to know that people were interested in what you were doing. Up until that point, like, we were being ignored, for want of a, basically. So to have a format like that on a platform like that, yeah, it was huge. I mean, I still have, and we had the show, it debuted February 2000. I had a guy last month tap me and be like, "You're that guy from MTV Base, isn't it?" I'm like, "Dude, that was 20 years ago. What are you talking about?" So, the influence was huge. It was huge. We got to speak to a lot of really powerful, influential people. One of my favorite moments was when Dr. Dre told us when we were filming out in LA that he'd signed Rakim to his label. Great. And we almost passed out right there on the spot. And it was like, yeah, that's exclusive. Nobody's ever said that. So it was about creating platforms and ways of giving people like a real vision of what they were able to do. So for us, that was the only reason to do it.
Sarah, what do you think the role of radio has played in the evolution of hip-hop today, especially in the UK?
Paramount.
Okay.
Absolutely paramount. I mean, radio has spread further than TV, I think, in terms of its influence. So many, I mean, in this country, just amazing how, when you see the lineage of broadcasters in this country, where you start thinking of someone like Max and Dave, the influence that a show like them had, where then that has birthed your Shorty Blitz and Big Ted, where from Shorty Blitz and Big Ted you've had people like Excalibur, Rodney P, Ace, and Briz, but from the 90s through to, I just feel with hip-hop, with all branches of hip-hop, it takes bricks to build a house. Things don't happen in a vacuum. And so to get to having big shows on the biggest broadcasters, there are people who have laid the way for that. Radio has launched so many careers. I mean, if then you're looking back in New York radio, you spoke about the Stretch and Bobbito show, which I went on to co-host the show that became after that on WKCR. But the amount, it's like a fairy tale when you listen to the roll call of artists who debuted on that and featured on that show. So where those were all key platforms that reached far and wide. Many artists were listening to that at home and were inspired by that. In this country, I think it's amazing to hear how many people, used to listen to Rodney P and Skits, used to listen to Excalibur, used to listen to my show. It blows my mind, like how many people approach me even now, 15, 18 years later, saying, what it meant to them to be able to hear the artists that I played. And similarly, for me, it was really important to represent UK music, but representing the correct UK music in, what I felt was correct and what needed to be played. I think that's the important thing for a DJ as well, is that you need to trust yourself and be true to what you think needs to be represented, rather than just copycatting or going along with this is what we ought to be playing. But I just think the influence of radio is massive in the story of hip hop history, and big time in the UK as well.
Definitely. I think Shane and Scully can answer this. I think today we're seeing the subgenres of hip hop, especially in the UK. Do you feel like the subgenres in hip hop are the reason it's so big today? We're talking, like Carl spoke about how jungle, a lot of the MCs went to jungle, but we look at grime, we look at drill, we look at Afro swing. These are all kind of subgenres or all touch on hip hop. Do you feel like these are the reasons why hip hop is at the place it is today, especially in the UK?
Yeah, go on. I think the subgenres of hip hop are super interesting because, for me, as like, especially when I'm on radio, when I play tunes, or when I'm like in dance, I throw parties with my friends, and when we're throwing parties, I find it really clear to see who's like a student of the game. Like, you can always tell a new MC or a new rapper, or whatever it is, who loves hip hop or who loves grime or who has done their history, as opposed to somebody who kind of like, I heard some music last year, so I thought I'll jump on and I'll try this music thing. Like, there's a clear difference, because somebody who has like a knowledge of what's come before them has studied, like they're trying to like spit in different ways, they're trying new flows, maybe they're a bit more experimental, and like, in my view, those kind of artists tend to last longer, like 5-10 years, because they're always like, okay, cool, I can try this and learn this and I can improve here. I think I'm always trying to push to my little brothers, like my youngest brother is like 13 going on 14. And I'm always trying to stress to him, like, yo, listen to music beyond your years, because the reason why I got to do what I'm doing currently in life is because I had older cousins who were like, oh, you should be listening to this and you should be listening to that. Like, there's no reason that I should know who people like Rakim was, but I did, because my older cousin was like, yo, like, this is sick, like, play this tape. And it's like, that knowledge of a whole culture is only going to grow you as an artist or even as a person.
Shane?
Perfect. Yeah, I agree with what Scully just said, but I'll just add on, like, I feel like the subgenres help evolve the hip hop as well, do you know what I mean? And it brings in new audiences. One thing that I've learned during my journey is, like, when I'm in the studio with an artist of this generation and they're like creating an EP, project, mixtape, album, whatever, sometimes they get a bit of writer's block. And what we tend to do is go back to the old school hip hop to get inspiration. Do you know what I mean? And then it comes out in the new genres. Do you know what I'm saying? So definitely, I feel like it just helps evolve it, and it brings a lot of attention to it. Do you know what I mean? And people, when they have interviews, they're able to say where they got their influences from. Like a lot of, like, for example, quickly, like I remember I was in studio with like Mostak and Jay Huss, and I remember Jay Huss created his album, but he would write to 50 Cent beats, and then J5 would like reproduce it. Do you know what I mean? But his inspiration came from like 50 Cent. Do you know what I mean? And then it's like, then he created his own album. But that's, do you know what I mean? So it's interesting to see that people tend to go back to go forward. Do you know what I mean?
Right.
I just wanted to just say really quickly, Dr. Dre was very influenced, he said, by Portishead's first album. So when he did The Chronic 2, he said that he spent hours and days listening to Portishead to get inspired. Yeah, so that's an example of it going back. Yeah. So coming from the US, coming here, doing that and coming back. So I just wanted to, before I forgot.
Of course.
There you go. So Nisha, fashion in hip hop has always been hip hop. Like, we can go back to Adidas and Run DMC. And today it seems like there's a lot of high-end fashion brands. Do they actually care about hip hop? Are they just using the fact that they got an audience? Talk to me about the high-end fashion brands, kind of jumping on. I mean, I don't want to get you sacked or like or cancelled from any brands, but today hip hop and fashion has always been synonymous.
Ooh, I mean, yeah, I think it's always been
Yeah.
synonymous because even when they weren't, you know, you go back to like Dapper Dan, and you go back to all the original stuff in the 80s, and they were buying the fabric, ripping out the bags, fake, and creating their own because, you know, these brands weren't delivering or making stuff, but they still wanted the kind of the glitz and the glamour from it. So, you know, you go back to the whole Dapper Dan era, but then you did sort of start seeing some brands really connect with hip hop and use hip hop as, you know, that was the hot shit. Like, you know, if you weren't part of it, you're going to miss out on a whole generation. So then you had the whole sort of Tommy Hilfiger era. Then you got the whole 90s bit. It was like Tommy Hilfiger. Then you saw all the rappers embracing polo sport. And then some of the brands, maybe they weren't initially up for it, but then I guess it's almost just to the sheer, you know, you have to pay attention to it. Mm-hmm. I would say in terms of high end, I mean, for the UK, I mean, okay, I can talk about the UK because where I'm based. So when I first started styling, which was maybe nearly 20 years ago, I would say that a lot of brands were really not supportive of the culture or urban music. You know, you quite often email brands and they would say, oh, we don't do urban, but there was a racial context because then if you did email them about, like, say, a white rapper or a white R&B singer, then they would like send you their whole showroom. So there was obviously a racial context. And I used to also work for a magazine doing some editorial back in the day. And they explicitly told me that the advertisers told them that, and this is all streetwear type brands, the advertisers told them that, you know, if you are going to have two models, the lead model must be white. If you're going to have one model, it has to be a white model. They don't want black people. But it was for a one of the urban magazines that were really big in the UK. I would say there has been a big transition post sort of BLM, George Floyd, whether that comes from a genuine place, a contrived place, marketing. And then, you know, in the last few years, we see everyone scrambling, especially in the UK. Oh, we've got to get like a black face. I mean, it's helped me in some ways because it makes it a bit easier to get stuff. But yeah, it's always been, you can't call it.
Right.
I mean, in terms of high-end brands, I don't think it's always personal. They just have, a lot of people have strict policies. They, you know, they don't lend for videos or photo shoots. It's got to be editorial or red carpet. So it's not, that's just based on the individual person. But what I would say is, as each year goes on, you do see more and more brands warming up a little bit to the culture. But yeah, the biggest sort of, like a big switch was after sort of BLM, George Floyd.
What was your favorite era in terms of hip hop fashion? What was like some of the standout moments for you?
For me?
Yeah.
I would say for me, it's going to be, you know what, I'm a bit torn because I love camo. So I love like the real like camo, military, Wu-Tang, mob, you know what I mean? Like early, like late 80s, 90s. I love all the leather suits. I mean, I love all of it. I mean, I'd say most of it. There's probably elements all the way throughout. But yeah, I'm a big fan of like camo and fur.
Can I say
As
something?
you can see, of course.
Without interrupting, we're all connected.
Yeah.
So when I worked for Def Jam, my job was to do strategy for Fat Farm, which was Russell Simmons' clothing line of the 90s. Your sweatshirt looks like a Fat Farm copy, actually. But we did all the clothes for The Wire. We did Wu-Tang Clan. We dressed all the artists. So all those artists were wearing clothes that came from our design team.
Oh, amazing.
Yeah. So and I also launched Fat Farm for Women, which Kamara Simmons took over.
Oh yeah.
But basically, we were the ones who did the camo because Paul Middleman from Adidas now used to only wear camo, so he brought camo into Fat Farm.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
then it went from there, and we brought the metallic leather into Fat Farm as well, and then it went out because Mary J used to wear
The metallic. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, all that sort of military inspired. I mean, that's just my own personal taste. Yeah. So yeah, and it still is. So yeah.
The four elements of hip hop. Are they still relevant today? I'd love to ask. So I saw Carl's face just start. Are the four elements of hip hop still relevant in 2023, even though hip hop is the biggest genre in the world or one of the biggest genres in the
Is it
world?
still relevant?
Yeah.
I don't know. It's relevant to me.
Okay.
Do you know what I mean? If you're about the culture and you know about the history, yeah. If you're about the culture and you know the history, then those 4 elements never leave. Do you know what I mean? I think they've got kind of lost along the way, but if you're a true hip-hop fan, then you should know about the 4 elements. You should know about the history. You should know about the culture. And I think, you know, it's influenced the world, and you still see it. Like some of the biggest artists in the world, I'm talking about people that do art, it's spray cannalism. It's all based on street art. You see the same stuff you see on the side of a train or a bus or on a wall. You see that in art galleries now. We're just talking about fashion and, you know, MCing and DJing. They're still big. They're just normalized now. Do you know what I mean? But it all was birthed in hip hop.
Right.
So, in answer to your question, it is still relevant. People just don't know it.
Yeah, I mean, blatantly, the answer is yes, it's still relevant.
Right.
It's just the commodification of culture. So everything, like you say, everything has just been commodified and separated out. That's why rap is the thing that people, whenever anybody mentions hip-hop, they think rap. Well, that's not hip-hop. It's an element of. And again, it's up to purveyors of the culture to make sure that, you know, younger generations understand what that actually means. Mm-hmm. So it's our job to make sure that happens.
It's also for the younger generation to be open to having this information. Do you find that the younger generation are open to learn about what came before, or they're just willing to just live off the fact that it's popping now?
The thing is, sorry, just to cut in, is that they're seeing the elements every day, whether it's dance, whether it's art, whether it's scratch DJing and MCing. So they're taking part in it, they just don't know the history of it.
Even a lot of artists I work with, it amazes me that they don't know nothing about sampling. Like, they think, oh my God, Kanye made that. I'm like, no, it's a sample. Like, and then I dig up YouTube videos and show them. I'm like, look, these are the original samples. Because I remember when I worked in music, I mean, I'd spend hours on the phone when I'm phoning DJs. And we're meant to be talking about what I'm promoting, but we end up talking about samples and rare groove tracks and, you know, people. There was a whole thing of, you know, there was a whole mixtapes of the samples. So, you know, even it does amaze me that, like you said, they're absorbing it, but they don't fully understand what they're all absorbing.
Well, I think the main issue for me is simply that there's a generation that disappeared. So you can't find them anywhere. So my generation during the 90s, we made huge strides. A lot of very influential artists who people don't know. And for me, it's a travesty. So you asked the question, are the younger generation open to it? Well, they're only going to be as open as to what they're presented with. True. So if they're not presented with it, well, how would they ever be open to it?
Yeah. And can I interrupt? Sorry. I always interrupt. Tell me if it gets annoying. We were all influenced from our parents' record collection. The problem that we have now with hip-hop, and I want to bring this up, is that our kids, or our future, would be going to our record collections, but we don't have records or CDs anymore, so they have to go to streaming sites. The big problem we have is a lot of the masters from my generation, who I still talk about, are not available for streaming. They do not have their masters back. Their masters are sitting in some freaking shelf, like in Raiders of the Lost Ark, where they put the treasure into the freaking thing. That's what they're doing to the masters of Jungle Brothers. Do not have one of the albums that I freaking worked isn't available. Excuse my French. And Tragedy Gaddafi and all of the G Street stuff is not available to stream. I've been calling John Baker and trying to raise the money to buy the catalog back. Universal have just banked it. Far Side, we have the rights to the Far Side Bizarre Ride album, Passing Me By. It's going to be shelved, and these can just be die out for a whole next generation at the press of a button. At the press of a button, and the only way that we can maintain it is to tell stories and make sure that people hear the music and preserve the music, because you have to study the masters to be a master. Word. You know, and it's a reality, and we're at a big risk if people do not own their masters. They do not call them masters for no reason. You know, if artists do not own their masters, they get locked up. And what's the worst thing about not making money off your master? How can you even recoup and make money off your masters if they're not being streamed? Number one. Number two, what's the point of making art and having somebody just shelf it? You know, that's called being a slave. It's called working for free. Yeah. Sorry.
No, I would just like to add that if we're talking about how maybe newer generations aren't aware of the 4 pillars of hip-hop, which commonly that's referred to as DJing, graffiti, MCing, and what did I not mention? Breakdancing, breaking. I think that's kind of testimony to how pervasive hip-hop culture has become, and it's just something which, you know, is so normalized in wider popular culture. I would also say that I think there's an argument to be made that there are 6 pillars of hip-hop. You know, we add to those 2 pillars this beat making and fashion, you know, and just the influence that fashion has had globally as well. But I think in terms of the importance of younger generations getting to know about what has gone before them, it reminds me of one of my favorite quotes from Marcus Garvey, where a people without knowledge of their past is like a tree without roots. So, you know, you have a generation of artists now where, you know, maybe someone like Soulja Boy, first song he literally ever made, blew up on YouTube, got millions of hits. Guy has no kind of foundation beneath that to build on, you know, and this is the difference of, say, the previous generation of hip-hop, where these are people who studied jazz artists, they studied soul, funk, you know, boogie, all kinds of different genres, even classical records kind of thing, and be able to build on those legacies and create something stronger. So I think it's hard to know how we change that's happening for kids now, but I think there's definitely strength to be gained from going back and doing your homework.
Recently, I don't know if anybody knows about this, but Nas and Steve Stout started a foundation called the Paid in Full Foundation. And basically, it's for us to give back to the founders of hip-hop, the legends of hip-hop. So I think the first 2 recipients were Scarface and DJ Kool Herc. I'd love to know the panel's thoughts on this, and do you feel like this is something that we could get in the UK at some point? Maybe like artists put a little bit of money aside so that we can look after our legends or the people that were here before us that set the path to have hip-hop in the place that it is today. What do you think, Sarah?
First of all, I think with a lot of the godfathers, pioneers of hip-hop, if these were some of the struggles that these, for recognition and respect that these people face, if that was Sting and Elton John, it's just unfathomable that those people would be treated like that. But I think what it actually speaks to is a much deeper issue, which is how primarily black American men are at the highest health risks in America, in the world. You know, and so it's something about a wider health issue. It's not normal, you know, we all know our grandparents, great-grandparents and things. It's not normal for black men to be dropping dead middle-aged. And so we need to address health issues that are affecting us as a community, not just as like hip-hop artists. And this is also part of why we need, you are finding older artists who are in vulnerable positions. So I think there's a multi-layered thing that's going on here as well.
I think it's going to be slightly more difficult to establish something like that here, for the simple fact that there was not the same cohesive approach to the culture, the making of the music. Everything was very kind of separated. It was difficult to get people to unify in the way that they really needed to. And again, it's down to cultural differences. In the States, like, you can pretty much sell anything in the States. You can package it and make it work.
You can sell anything here, but I've been selling a lot over here.
But in the same way, the problem has always been one of understanding how that actually works in principle, as opposed to what you see on the surface. So everything is edifice, and there's not been enough structure put in place, or there wasn't enough structure put in place back in the 90s to really help people understand how they could be artists, how they could sell music. Why are you doing what you're doing? Even simple questions like that. When artists used to come into the magazines that I used to work at, me and Fusion would sit down, they play the music, and we'd say, okay, so who is this for? And they just look at you with a blank face. So they hadn't even thought about who they're making the music for. Is it enough that you just do music, you just make it in your bedroom, which is fine, nothing wrong with that. But then if you're asking an audience to want to be involved in what you're doing, to participate in what you're doing, well then that means that you have to have a different level of understanding of what that actually means. What does it actually mean to have people, a swathe of people, want to engage in what you're doing? That's not just a bedroom facility, facilitating thing. So there's levels to these things. So do we have the infrastructure? Did we have the infrastructure to really understand what that was? No, we didn't. And as a result, a lot of people did what they did to varying degrees of success, and very well, I have to add. But we had some great artists in the 90s, right? But the problem is that, again, with no infrastructure, no archiving, most of the people in this room don't even know who they are. So the point for me now is, in order to kind of understand more of what needs to be done, we need to get people like Kay, and we need to get more artists, Rodney, Shorty, like more artists to really start helping people to understand the things that they learned when they were coming up, right? So that the younger generation now aren't making the same mistakes, just in slightly different ways. Because we're walking into the commodification of our culture. So are we creating work because we're artists, or are we creating work for content? And there's a huge difference. And without understanding what that difference is, we are literally sleepwalking into a situation where people are just creating stuff just for the simple notion of creating it.
But when you say that that's been happening, we're already there. Like, that's not that we're not at the beginning of that, don't you reckon?
We're not at the beginning, but again, the conversations need to be had. The conversations, because
it's so normalized now.
Yeah, it's 100%.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
I think, sorry, I always interrupt, but I have a short memory span. I think the most important thing that people need to know, and what I need to say, is ownership. Because if you own something, you will make money off of it, possibly forever. A lot of people, especially American hip-hop artists, like DMX died broke. DMX died broke, y'all. Like, he was like the biggest selling artist, but because he was not financially literate and didn't own a lot of what he made money off of, he died broke. You know, like, I think Swiss Beats paid for his funeral. Yeah. So, but it's like, these are like real conversations, especially as we get older in our age. Like, I think me and Max, we're like the oldies on here, but like, you know, I buried my father, it was $28,000, you know? Like, this is how much these things cost. And if you can't even pay for your own funeral and you had a huge song, and Universal's still making money off of your songs, people need to educate themselves. The MMF does educate people how to be managers and how to get deals and how to maximize their profits with their music. But the reality is, own your own music, own your own businesses, work with your friends. Knowledge is key, and try to survive in this world doing what you love. There's nothing worse than actually doing what you love, making all those sacrifices and dying broke. So, oh, sorry.
Was you going to add, Scully? You was going to add something?
Yeah, but I don't want to be too long-winded, so I'll try and be really quick. It's essentially, we're in the music business, right? And like, therein lies an issue. Music is an art. Business is about capitalism. It's about selling things. And that's why, even if you look at historic artists and painters from years back, look at Van Gogh. Van Gogh died broke. Like, Van Gogh became a star like 20 years after he died. And he made the most money on his estate when he'd long gone. And I look at music the same way I look at sport. Footballers have been making a lot of money for like 80 years, but every single year there's another footballer who retires and goes broke. We don't have any form of transitionary learning where it's like, okay, cool, you're going to be making this money, here's how you look after it, here's what you do when your career is done. Like, footballers, like rappers, don't have the longest careers. Like, most footballers retire at 32, 33, 34. Sometimes it's the same for rappers. We're just getting to a culture where people are getting into music older and older and learning to transition. But we need to show that and kind of equip people to do better beyond their youth. I guess hip-hop culture and youth culture are so intrinsically interlinked, but we need to show people that actually, like, you're a human being, you're going to get older.
100%.
You can't avoid that. So how do you keep a part of this culture and not just, it's not about like getting older. I don't want to be like 60, 70 saying back in my day, stuff was better.
Oh, trust me, you will.
I already do it. I already do
There
it.
you go,
I already
there
do
you go.
it. But what I'm saying is, it's about understanding that the youth can do what they want with their culture, but it doesn't mean that you have to divorce yourself from this culture entirely or look only at it with nostalgia. Be more willing to be forward thinking and to be adaptable and malleable and all of this.
It's interesting because you guys can tell me if I'm wrong, but Shane, you also, to me, it feels like the artists of today understand the business a whole lot better than the artists from before. It seems like they've got their business head straight on. They know how to own their own shit. They know like how to. It seems like they get the business a little bit better than the artists that come before them.
Yeah, I would say that, and there's still a handful that don't.
Okay.
Get it. Do you know what I mean? I feel like as well, like a lot of artists have like managers who are just their friends that don't know as well. Do you know what I mean? But also, it's just like you experience. Do you know what I mean? Because like there's artists who will go through a deal and stuff, and then they will kind of let other artists know. I've been in a room where artists are educating other artists and stuff, but I don't think it happens enough. But definitely, this generation are a little bit more clued up now.
Right.
It's the information generation.
Yeah.
Do you know what I'm trying to say? Like, there's so much. You go on Instagram, TikTok, and everything's there. People's telling you. You know, you've seen like Hardy Caprio do tweets. You've seen Ray come out and say the label, like, so people are more aware now. Do you know what I mean? As soon as you got into a room with someone, they're saying, not owning my masters, they don't even know what it means, but they're saying, yep, all my masters, what my masters. It's like, okay, what does that mean? It's like, I don't know, but you know what I'm saying? It's just, so I feel like with the information, I feel like, yeah, definitely artists are a little bit more clued up now.
It's been discussed over the years about misogyny in hip hop, sexism in hip hop. We've heard about it over and over. At the moment, no, like women seem to be absolutely winning in hip hop. I'd love to hear from the ladies on the panel. Like, what has been your experiences in coming up in the industry and being a lady in hip hop? Sarah, would you like to start?
It's funny because obviously I'm often asked about this, you know. But yeah, I've been working.
Is it a boring question, by the way? You can be honest. Is it like, are you fed up on answering this question?
Well, no, I was going to say, you know, I've been working professionally as a DJ for 25 years now. And for me, obviously, I'm aware that I'm in a massive minority, like as a hip hop DJ. But it's not, sexism is something that I have never had to deal with personally. You know, it's never something that has ever confronted me, you know, face to face in any way that is different to how it plays out in the real world. I think sexism in the music industry and in hip hop is just a microcosm of what is happening every day in the street, in every workplace. So when we're constantly labeling this like the misogyny of hip hop, it's like, well, no, this is just what is going on for women everywhere, kind of thing, and how different sorts of injustices play out. But from a personal experience, I was just always so focused on having I loved what I was doing, I was driven, and having my peers respect, and I feel that I earned that, you know, so I was a credible member of the community, and so I was dealt with as such and looked at with eye to eye. So I don't think it was never something where, and I guess I'm quite a strong character, so I don't think people really felt that they could step to me with that kind of energy either, kind of thing. And so it was never something that ever played a part in my career, in all fairness.
I'm gonna butt in. It never, before 2 years ago, I would have said to you, it never played a part in my career here. And this is like, I'm normally the only woman I've toured with the Wu-Tang Clan. I've been the only woman at Def Jam. I've been the only woman in so many situations. Do you know the biggest sexism and bullying that I have gotten is since I went in a senior management position working with UK Music as the GM of the MMF. Okay, and as a board of directors on the Scottish Music Industry Association, the first person of color and the first immigrant as well, I must add. I get the most sexism from other CEOs. I'm acting CEO of the MMF. When I execute that power, I get the most sexism from, and you know that I'm not talking about black men, because you know that there are no black CEOs in the UK. Okay. Well, at major labels and at bigger organizations. Now, do we have them? Who's one? Oh, no, you're saying you're agreeing with me. I thought you were disagreeing. I was going to say name one, right? Well, I know Trenton. Yeah, I used to work with Trenton. We co-managed an artist together. Yeah. And Darkest. Okay, I know Darkest too. But I'm talking about like the higher levels. Okay, and I'm definitely talking about the trade organizations. I'm on the diversity task force, and people still step to me. I'm a founding member of the CISA organization, Creative Industries Independent Standards Authority, and people still step with me. I've taken I sued Jazz Summers for stealing my artist when I was a little manager by myself, and he was the head of the music managers forum. I took him to court, and this person still steps to me. Okay, so I'm just saying, like, the higher you go, you're dealing with older people, you're dealing with other people. And the stronger you get, the more power you get, the more misogyny you will face. The first time in my whole professional career has been in the last 2 years. The truth will set you free, but it's going to piss a few people off. But I got nothing to lose. Do I tell them the truth?
I'll keep it brief. I've met some really great men, and I've met some really seedy men. I'll leave it at that.
Oh, yeah, wow. Which we all have. So I think that, like I say, this is just a reflection of society as a whole. It doesn't matter what level you're at in the game. You're going to come across like injustices as a woman that men don't face. You know, so it's not necessarily about being at the top of upper echelons. You could be a girl in the club. You know, so you can deal with sexism and injustice and inequality.
We're going to get to some Q&As real soon. If you guys have got questions, we're going to get to it real. But I just want to ask a fun question, if that's okay. Can we get everybody's top 3 dead or alive? No, we have to. We're going to do it right now. Top 3 MCs dead or alive. I can see you're on it. Yeah, I can see that you're on it.
No, I mean, it's you've got to just decide in what realm. It's so hard to whittle it down, kind of thing. I mean, a question that I was asked recently that I'd never been asked before in an interview, which I'd be interested to know. Maybe it whittles it down a bit for people. Is who is your hip hop icon?
That's good.
And like for me, I was like, gosh, who is it? For me, it's DJ Premier. Like, I feel DJ Premier has a catalogue that basically cannot be touched at this point. Like, the debate of who is the greatest hip-hop producer of all time is done now. Like, no one contests his back catalogue, his innovation, his artistry, his influence in hip-hop. And for me, like, he is one of my certified icons. I would also say from the UK side, Black Twang for me is possibly my favourite artist to ever come out of this country for such an amazing catalogue and just decades in the game too.
Awesome. Carl, go on.
Top 3?
Yeah.
Fucking hell. Now that's hard, man.
All right, just give us a name, a couple names.
All right, I'll tell you who I proper just love him. Busta Rhymes, man.
Yeah, man. Ledge.
One, because I went on tour with him as well. But even before that, as a DJ, his records would always bust up the dance. Always. His videos were groundbreaking. His energy on stage is
there
unmatched.
a better live performer?
And this is why you ain't seen what do you call it? Was it when they do verses?
Verses, yeah. No one wants it.
No one wants that smoke. No one wants that smoke.
It, no.
He's a brilliant rapper. His personality is great. And funny enough, I don't think he's in the conversation of top 5 enough. Do you know what I mean? He's when you talk about catalogue, I don't think he's matched. In terms of singles and club bangers, no one contests him.
Definitely up there.
To this day, and his album's coming out in a couple of weeks, and I can't wait. I'm like you know what I mean?
He's
I'm like
ready, itching.
I'm a true fan. So yeah,
I love
Busta for me. Always been at the forefront, and he's a yardie as well.
The thing I love about Busta, looking at the beginnings of his career.
Yeah.
You know, he's not necessarily someone that you would think would then now.
No, you've seen the growth, but you've seen the growth. You've seen the growth and the trajectory, and also he's a humble guy, man. If you've seen the way he talks now and the respect he gives to everyone that's helped him to get to where he is, and he's always kept it 100, man. So that's my one.
All right. Any more legends you guys want to salute? All right, go ahead.
I can. I can.
Nisha, go ahead.
All right, for me, because it's for me the greatest album of all time, only built for Cuban links.
Oh,
so
wow,
Raekwon,
go on.
number one. Tupac.
All right.
And then I would say, then I'm torn. I think I just, it's either going to be Jay-Z or Ghostface Killer.
Two great names. Like that.
Yeah, but for me, yeah.
I love that you
greatest
mentioned
album of all
links. That was
time,
dope.
only built for Cuban links. So
You don't want to smoke.
Shay's still thinking, boy.
Whenever you ask this question, my advice to anyone is just say the first things that come in your head,
All right.
because you're actually a human being, so you can change your mind. Like, nobody can actually question you. Be like, oh, but you said this is something. All right. Like, it's actually fine. Like,
Yeah, but it's being recorded though. That's the only problem.
that's all right. My mind might change next week, but right now, it's probably Snoop, because when I was a kid, I was just like, yo, I recognize his voice every time he comes on a tune. So it was like, rah, like this guy is like charisma. And then I'm going to cheat, and I'm going to say a duo, because I think Outkast are probably the duo that made me fall in love with hip-hop. Like, I just think everything they were doing was so different, so just expansive, so amazing. I just think they're the greatest. And then word for word, bar for bar, I genuinely don't believe there's a better rapper than Jay-Z. Like, I just think he's the greatest of all time.
Can't be angry at any of them.
Before somebody says mine. Okay. You looked at your watch. If I'm talking too much. Okay. This doesn't include any of the artists that I worked with in the film. I'm not including any artists that I worked with. So number one would probably be Nas. Never worked with him. Number two would probably be Phife Dawg.
Rest in peace.
Rest in peace, Phife. And then for the third one, would it be Biggie or would it be Missy? Biggie.
Well, no, that's your choice. Don't ask people.
I know. Okay, so I would say, so those would be my three. But Missy I love as well, and I love Too Many. Pharrell, I can go on and on, but it's like, yeah.
So I'm going to do it via my images that are currently on the walls.
Sick.
Okay. So I would say my top three, Nas
Hey,
in the back.
there you go.
The reason I love that photograph was because that was literally the person I met that day. He was really introspective. As a 19, 20-year-old, I was expecting somebody to be very kind of outgoing, braggadocious. He's an MC. He made Live at the Barbecue. What I got was a really quiet, thoughtful, introspective human being. So I love that photograph because it literally captures him as I met him. Let me think. The Buster I really like, but I'm gonna say the Brat.
Oh wow!
Because I love the composition of the shot.
Mm-hmm.
People tend to kind of get they love this shot because of the depth of field in it, and she really owns her space. I love the fact she owns the space, and yeah, big, because I got to meet him. I took that photograph in '94. That was the year that his album came out. And me and a bunch of journalists got to sit with him and Little C's and talk to him. And he was one of the coolest people I ever met in life. He was a really, really cool guy. Never spoke about himself, was always speaking about what he wanted to do for Junior Mafia, making sure that they were always going to be good. Really down-to-earth guy. So I felt really privileged to have met him. So that's my top three.
Amazing. Go on,
Top
Shane.
three is a bit difficult, but I definitely would say, for me personally, Tupac. Just everything about him, not just the artist, but what he stood for, how he was so unapologetic. He just, I don't know, he stood out for me. Do you know what I mean? And even just like I don't know if he was born in jail or his mum was pregnant when she was in jail. Just everything, just everything about him. Do you know what I mean? And the fact of the matter is, he made so much music. Like, he's actually became even bigger like after he died. Do you know what I mean? So for me, sometimes when I sit with artists and I say to them, like, how many songs have you done like this week or something? And they're like, oh, just one. And I'm like, bro, Tupac's made like, do you know what I mean? Like, I use examples. So that's kind of one. And obviously we mentioned Jay-Z. Self-explanatory, really. Do you know what I mean? And another one. Do you know what's funny? I would actually say Busta Rhymes as well, actually, for like visually growing up, like, what? Everything. I was like, rah, like, what's going on here? Do you know what I mean? So, and I actually met Busta Rhymes as well. So that's kind of my three. It possibly could change, but those are the three. I would say now.
For anybody in the back, by the way, there is actually a Busta Rhymes shot on this wall right here.
It's sick.
So when it's done, you can check it out in the back, just right here.
All right, we're going to get to some questions from you guys, the audience. If you're out there, if you've got a question for any of the panel, please let's get to it over here.
Hey, how you guys doing? Am I going to hold it, or do you want to hold it? Sweet. My name is Briz. Hopefully you'll catch me performing a bit later. But I do some stuff with Packney via Studio 36, so called the Run the Track program. So we have like industry, people like you come and talk to artists, and we audition, and then at the end we do a collaborative album, and we throw an event for the album launch. So I work with young artists, old and young. It doesn't really matter. But I wanted to ask the women on the panel, especially like, as a man, when it comes to like talking about how to stay safe in the music industry, like obviously we do have women on our team as well, but also how do I kind of cultivate that space and teach them from that kind of aspect in terms of how they should navigate the industry and they should be safe in a way that will resonate with them from a male perspective.
Great question. Fantastic question, and I'm so happy to see a young man asking that question. Really beautiful. CISA, which is the Creative Industries Independent Standards Authority, which is an organization that was created by the DCMS specifically to educate people and let people know how to have these conversations, what's okay and not okay. And this is beneficial not just for young men like yourself, but also for women on your team. We've set up workbooks. We have all of these different educational tools that we would love to give to you. So that you can have those conversations. But the biggest thing that I would say is just protect your women. Protect your women. If you're out at a gig late at night, don't let her walk to the train station alone. Make sure she gets home correctly. If there's money that you can get her a taxi home for, protect women. Women need to be protected. Black women especially need to be protected. So ask the questions. Ask how they're feeling. Are you okay? If you see something that even feels slightly uncomfortable, ask her if she's okay. Don't worry about being overprotected. We never get tired of being protected. So yes, I don't know if that helps.
I think also, again, as I said before, I think issues that we face in the industry or in hip-hop, it's a microcosm of what's going on in the wider world. When we're talking about women's safety and things like this, how they should behaving, how they be behaving, how they should carry themselves, rather than women having to think about, oh, I need to carry my keys like this at this time. Why don't we raise men and boys to not be misogynistic or to not be rapists? You know, it's not about women adapting how they behave. It's about us educating men about how they should behave and not be predators to women. I have a 4-year-old daughter, and I'm indoctrinating her with many mantras about good music as well, but I always say to her, no means no and stop means stop. You know, and this is something that I'm beginning from now. No means no and stop means stop. It's okay to say no, you know, but I think first of all, what happens is more so about how men are educated and how men are being raised, rather than us adapting how we should behave to fit into how men's bad behavior.
Awesome. We got another question?
Guys, thank you so much. This is an amazing event, because I came to the UK just around a year back, and I'm from India, and I'm a bilingual rapper, so I majorly focus on Hindi, because I have this mentality, like India as a very humongous country. Very recently, hip hop has entered India, and people started to know about what hip hop is. So I started to rap in Hindi. And I have a vision to, started rapping in an ancient language also. So I'm learning that language named Sanskrit. So that's the whole point. So now coming to the question, talking about, we spoke a little bit about business. And as a musician myself, I make music, I rap. How do I put myself in front of the public? Because there are so many things. Because as we also spoke, that people are now not making music for art. They are making music to get viral. They are making music to get clicks. Everything is flashy. Nobody's talking about real stuff. The culture which used to, I mean, Tupac, he's like an idol because he used to talk about culture. He was talking about people. He was talking about problems which is going on. Now who does that? Everyone just does on TikTok for clicks.
Kendrick Lamar.
Yeah, there's obviously exceptions.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
So what's the question? What is the question you mean?
How do artists like me, who come from a country where hip-hop is not that huge, come to a country which is like the UK? Because there are two challenges. First, to get my level up, and second, to be a part of a community, because I come from a different country.
You are actually in a really good position because you're in virgin territory. You literally get to map out what you want to do and how you want to do it. Like, you don't even understand how great you've got it. Like, you could literally be the first person to rap in your language and be big. Dude, there's artists that would kill to be in your position right now. So I would only say to you that, again, everything is about repetition and practice. Repetition and practice. Don't be afraid to fail, right? Failing is important.
Yes.
Get it wrong, but understand what you got wrong, correct it, and don't get it wrong again. Yeah? So everything is just about repetition. Just keep doing what you're doing, yeah, and get better. And that means, and that can mean a lot of different things. So for you as an individual, what does that mean? For you as an individual, what's important to you? Because as an artist, if you're talking about being an artist, and I don't mean a music artist, I mean an artiste, right? It's about what you want to say with your voice, how you want to say it. The problem now is that everything is being commodified again, and it's been homodified, right? Yeah. So everything sounds the same because everything literally is the same. Okay. So just do you. Yeah. It sounds really dumb because it's simple, but it's true because you look at the artists on the walls of this room. They were all individuals. At the period that these photographs were taken, none of these artists sounded the same. Exactly. None of them sounded the same. Yes. Be an individual.
Can we get a 16 in Hindi?
Thank you.
Can we get a 16? Can we get some bars? Can we get a quick 16? Is that all right?
All right. So this is unreleased track. So I'll do like a 16 bar of it.
Thank you.
सबके सामने आके मैं गाऊंगा गाना कहानी सुनाते सुनाऊंगा गाना दुनियादारी के कितने सुना दिए सामने से आके तू बनना नशाना स्पिट करने में जब भी आ जाऊंगा मैं तब तक गूंजेगा शोर बेटा राजा हूं मैं जितने भी स्लैप्स होंगे तुम्हारे गाने में मेरे गाने बेटा फायर है बे आजकल के लोग जलेबी से सीधे इनके अंदर बहुत फायर है बे नकली वो फायर वो लाइट वाली आती ना शोपी से बस दिखाने की है शाणे भी बहुत है अनाड़े भी बहुत है रैपर्स ऐसे जो समझते वो बॉस है डिनर तो छोड़ो मैं ब्रेकफास्ट में खा लूंगा चमड़ी के साथ में हड्डी चबा लूंगा कहने बोल या तो फिर दाना भी बोल लो खून का मैं प्यासा इन रैपर्स का बहुत हूं योलो इनका मोटिव गाने बनाने का हर कुछ लिरिक्स से हकते रहते
Fire! I have not got the faintest clue what you just said, and I am on board. Holy! Yeah.
Yeah, baby. Shane, what are you saying? You see star signs? You see pound signs? I love that, man. All right, next question.
That was dope, by the way.
That was hard.
Actually, the question I had was that from earlier on. I forgot your name already. Sorry, this woman.
Analise.
Analise, yeah, thank you. You didn't actually describe what the connection was between the director and Stretch and Bobbito.
Oh, sorry, I talk so fast. I sometimes miss parts. The connection, they both went to NYU together.
Okay.
And they were roommates.
Okay.
So he was a guy from London going to film school.
Cool.
Nick, you can Google Nick Quested. He was the star witness as well for the Capitol Hill, when they charged Capitol Hill and killed all those people. He was filming the Proud Boys doing a documentary, so he was the star witness to take down Trump. So if you Google Nick Quested, it will say star witness is former '90s hip hop video director that did like all these Trina videos. That was him.
I also want to just contribute to some of the talking points as well earlier. I feel like the comments you said about streaming, I feel like it's like a recurring thing of, streaming would be great if only it did this, or streaming would be great if only it did that. And I don't think there is a world where streaming actually benefits artists,
period.
Oh no, I think streaming does benefit if the artists can get their music up there to,
That's
to
my
get
point.
to be
That's what I'm saying. Like, if
yeah.
that's what I'm trying to say. It's always
it's
if streaming was this, then it would be. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's always let's try and fix streaming so that it can work for us.
Yeah,
I don't think
work
streaming's
at the
gonna do that.
MMF. We work very closely with all the streaming sites, so we have really good relationships with Spotify, Amazon Music, and everybody else. And we actually do their development and are working with them constantly to try to get them to actually pay artists fairly and have the best deals for artists. So if you want to be a part of those discussions, get your manager, or if you're an art, I don't know if you're an artist, or if you're a manager, or if you're an entrepreneur. If managers can join the MMF, and their questions and comments can go directly. When we work with TikTok, they fly over their development team to meet with our managers in focus groups to make TikTok better for artists and managers.
Awesome.
So,
I'll
yeah.
definitely check into that.
Are you anti-streaming then, bro?
I'm pro making money.
Yeah.
Good afternoon. God bless you guys, first of all. I wanted to ask, do you guys, we're speaking about hip-hop as a culture, and I wanted to know if you guys are taking it as a music culture, or can you envision a day where hip-hop is an actual culture with a space of its own, laws, these kind of things, like a Chinatown almost?
It already is. And that's what I mean, what I think is so beautiful and part of the longevity of hip hop is it has a bona fide subculture to it. You can't say that about other genres of music. Like, we have values that are hip hop, you know, which some people might not necessarily have been schooled in that kind of way, but they still play out, you know, and so which even reaches out to political ideas. You know, so I think hip-hop is a bona fide culture, and that is at the core of what has constructed hip-hop musically as well.
Yeah. What she said.
Yeah.
I just want to say that I agree with that, and I wanted to actually know if that's how you saw it as well. But you said you do so.
He said, yeah.
Awesome. Thank you very much, bro.
What's really good, people? My name is Triple O. I'm a Christian hip-hop artist. First of all, I want to say thank you for even having this conversation. Needed. The culture needs it. I'll keep this question real short and sweet. How do we change the narrative? And what I mean by that is, they say, using quotation marks, they say hip-hop, grime, whatever, this genre of music is a young man's game. So unfortunately, what we see, unlike other genres, when artists get a lot older, the fans, the culture, they support their artists. So you can see, looking even in R&B, you see artists touring when they're 30, 40 years into their career. Don't even talk about rock and roll, don't even talk about pop, you know, steps and all those kind of guys. Unfortunately, that's not the case in our genre. Or am I wrong in making that statement? And if I am correct, how do we change the narrative?
So it can be changed just by, again, by being active in the culture. So it was pretty much a given that during the 90s, early 2000s, if you were an MC past a certain age, you were done. But that paradigm has been changed forever. So by definition, it's a young culture, so it means that we have to be able to make sure that we keep doing what we're doing and growing and developing, and then like literally pushing down those barriers that say that we can't do this. And we put them up ourselves, right? So those barriers have already been pushed down. We just have to keep getting more people doing exactly the same thing. Nas is still touring. Busta's still touring. Jay-Z's still touring. Rakim. So you've got legacy artists that are still touring. They still go around. Jungle Brothers were in Brighton last night.
I was there.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, yeah. UK-wise, okay. UK-wise.
Yeah, I think there's a big disconnect. I mean, obviously, we can talk about the American culture, and I feel like in America they do, value the pioneers, and most of the younger artists, whether through their parents, whatever, the pioneers, the older artists, they're revered, they're valued, they're respected, and I do feel, goes back to what you said earlier, there's almost like a 10-year absence of UK hip-hop stroke rap. I work with a lot of young artists. I don't think they know hardly anything about sort of the history of UK hip hop. So there is a big sort of disconnect from, Cole's generation to now, and I don't feel in the UK there is that same respect. I don't feel like, you know, even in America, I guess it's their culture, so it's different. So, you know, like even recently I saw Ava X have done, with Tommy Hilfiger, with Havoc from Mobb Deep, they've done something. You know, all these brands always, they will incorporate the old with the new, and, you know, it's this whole sort of 360 thing, whereas over here it's just like, yeah, get lost. Like no one knows.
Yeah.
Right? So I don't think any like brands really do the history. It's very sort of tokenism, sort of, oh, let's just get this rapper, he's hot, you know. Hey, you know, we're Clarks, who's born in Jamaica, fuck it, you'll do. So it's kind of that kind of attitude in England. So I think to what he's saying, it's very easy to look at other countries, but, you know, when you're here, we don't see, like I went to the 50 years, there was a concert, it went left. Who didn't turn up? Well, you went left, Dad. It all went left. It was a shit show, basically.
It went viral as well. I saw that,
were you there?
Yeah. No, I watched it on Instagram.
Yeah, so that's what I'm saying.
Big Daddy Kane. Big Daddy Kane.
No. Here, there was a show in London. It was just everything. Yeah. So, you know, it was, you know, it all went a bit left. There's always problems. But I mean, you were there, yeah. I was on the stage. Yeah.
Is it all right if you grab a mic if you don't have a microphone on the stage?
I just mean that
please,
I just don't think there is that same respect and upholding the history of UK hip-hop. So there is, TMax mentioned it earlier, there just sort of seems to be like, we had all these amazing artists when I was younger, like London Posse, blah, 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 blah. Then I don't know what happened. Nothing.
Because I think we were hip-hop, hip-hop in this country for a period of time was treated like the bastard stepchild, you know, that no one had respect for, you know, and it was kind of like, okay, let's not mention that over there. That was part of the issue. I think also what we have is, as we were kind of talking about before, there are a lot of elements of rap in the UK now which has stronger roots and connections with garage and jungle. So these were artists who they haven't come up through the same legacy or connections with artists of, like we're saying, you're directly from your London Posses, your Black Twangs and things like that. So the knowledge just isn't there, you know, for them to have been connected to. But I definitely think within with that show, though, I think overall what I found wonderful that day was that there was so much beautiful energy in the lead up to that, and that was present in that moment. It was just three people with, you know, some deranged ideas who tried to rain on the parade. You know.
So, as far as UK artists, well, again, I would argue that you've got a really amazing stable of artists right now that are doing really important things. And I would also argue that I will see those people in 10, 20 years' time, 30 years' time, still on stages. We just need to create the infrastructure. There was no infrastructure, there is now an infrastructure. If anything, what I'm hearing here is the fact that because of, you know, music culture and because of the way that grime and jungle and trip hop, those artists that were doing that music, they were able to access because there was a lot more momentum behind them. For the hip hop artists, there was no momentum. But for those people coming up, you know, the Goldies and the Massive Attacks and those people, they were given infrastructure. And then from there, they can then develop that, they can pass the information on. That's what we didn't have during the 90s. So that's in place now. You're not going to get a Stormzy not performing in 10, 20 years' time. That's not going to happen unless he decides that's not what he wants to do. Same thing with Sim. Same thing with all of them. If they decide they want to do it, they'll do it. But the point is that you have to be present. You have to be doing it in order to change it.
And you have to not be shut down, because Soul Solid Crew should be still going, and they were shut down by the police and not allowed to be booked in a lot of venues. And they should have been your Wu-Tang Clan over here, and they would have broken America, I'm sure, too. So, yeah, we just have to, like, and when we say, like, we were waiting, like, we have to do it ourselves, because no one is going to say, oh, let's do a reunion tour celebrating UK hip-hop all-stars. So it basically needs to be done ourselves, and the best way to do it ourselves is to be able to self-finance, and the best way to self-finance is to have good business and good business literacy. When we did our mixtape film, we self-financed that, and then we took it to Tribeca, and then we licensed it. We own that film, and we self-financed that film. It wouldn't have gotten done if we didn't self-finance it. This idea that you have about respecting the UK hip-hop of the past, it's going to probably have to come from us. No one's going to give us a bone.
Oh, 100%.
When it's already started, yeah, then you can get, the brands will come in when they see you've already figured it out and you already have money down. A brand will easily match you if you have $1 million. Oh, I have $1 million down for this idea. Oh, I'll give you another $1 million. I have this artist attached to the show. Okay, here's money. They'll give you money once you have the artist and once you have everything sorted down, but they're probably not going to give the money because they're not going to see a value in it initially. So it has to come from us. Everything always has to come from us. The culture came from us. We don't notice it that much because it is the culture now. It's not a subculture anymore. But what is the next subculture? Next subculture is sitting in this room. I'm digging your style. It looks amazing. But like the next subcultures are in this room. It's the person sitting next to you that you're going to meet in this room, that you're going to start a business with, and you're going to start something, and you're going to own it. And you're going to learn from everybody on this panel and beyond. And you're going to not make the mistakes that we made. And you're going to have careers, and you're going to be able to be like Diana Ross and playing the Royal Albert Hall at 80, you know, and living your life and feeding your grandchildren. So. Sorry. Yeah.
Yeah. I think we're done, man. Can we please give a round of applause to our amazing panel? Yeah, man. Let's see Wiley at the Royal Albert Hall at 90 years old. Eskimo dance there, that'll be fun. Yeah, I want it. We'll definitely want it. Again, thank you guys for coming out.